Everdark, Episode 109. His Master's Voice. Last on Everdark, Christian finds a pathway to Julian's parents and sees various points of their lives that were crucial to who they are, including the fact that Sophia warned them that they would not be there for most of Julian's life. At the end of the line, though, Christian doesn't find the Harrows, but Callie, who traps him in a soul gem. Now we go a little earlier, to before things completely went to hell for our heroes. Earlier, Balthazar watched Christian vanish beneath the sea of ghosts. They flowed over the top of Christian's head like a wave. Bitter fear filled his mouth. The urge to reach for his fledgling's mind, to comfort himself that Christian was all right, filled him. But that would distract Christian. Yet if he just did it for a minute, surely that wouldn't be problematic, would it? He shifted from foot to foot. Fiona grasped his right forearm. He frowned at her. What? I'm just...
Anxious as a cat on a hot tin roof.
She lifted an eyebrow. I'm not...
About to crawl out of your skin.
The other eyebrow lifted. Well, really? I'm...
Going to distract your fledgling from doing what he has to do because you are a mess.
Now it looked like both of her eyes were lifted too, as well as her eyebrows. His lips flattened, and he crossed his arms over his chest. She had a point, but he didn't want to concede it. Her mouth twitched into a smile.
It's okay to be worried, Balthazar. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be. I'm worried too,
she confessed with a one-shoulder shrug.
But Christian has to do this, and the best thing we can do for him is not be a distraction. Have confidence in him. He's meant to have this particular gift.
Balthazar's shoulders slumped. But he's so new to all of this. I've just got him, Fiona. And here he is, risking his second life again. She smiled fully at him and patted his forearm.
What do you expect? He's your fledgling.
What's that supposed to mean? I don't get into trouble. The moment those words left his mouth, he let out a sigh. That was such a lie.
You don't get into trouble. Only vampire that's killed his master in, what, a millennia? Maybe more?
Fiona shook her head and the beads clacked together. He deserved it, Balthazar sniffed.
Yes, he did. And you saved a lot of people by ending him. Christian is doing something just as important,
she told him. He looked at her closely. Her expression was relaxed. She was clearly concerned for Christian, but he had never seen Fiona so open about her feelings and comfortable with herself. She had certainly never stated that she appreciated what he had done for others by killing Roan. She'd always complained about how he'd destroyed Arceus's life because the Confessor had left the vampire world with him. What's changed? He asked her. She turned towards him, eyebrows up again, but this time in surprise.
Changed? What do you mean?
He gestured towards her as he tried to find words that wouldn't offend, which for him and Fiona, that was a change as well, and finally said, You, me, us. There's no...
Rancor?
She laughed, then became serious, though still amused.
I don't know. I'm sure we'll be snipping at each other in no time.
Probably. He was smiling, though, too.
You trusted me to take care of Christian,
she said suddenly, as they both gazed at the sea of ghosts. Yes, and you let him release Caemorn, and take one of the weapons.
Yes, but you are not mad. Not too mad, anyway.
She said the last under her breath with a grin. I just wish that Christian hadn't been afraid to tell me his plans, Balthazar admitted.
He doesn't want to worry you.
He's all of 28 years old. He's new to being a vampire. How can I not be worried? He demanded. She snorted softly.
Do you remember being 28 years old?
Not terribly, no. There was a lot of drinking and debauching and... Well, no, he admitted.
Well, if you were not in a drunken stupor and were asked whether at 28 you knew your own mind and were an adult completely capable of making your own decisions, what do you think you would have said? She
smirked at him. He rubbed his face. I would have wrongly thought that I knew everything. She touched his arm again.
He doesn't. Christian is remarkably together for someone so young. I tremble to think of how wise he'll be after a few centuries, Can you imagine it?
Balthazar found himself smiling proudly, even though he had nothing to do with Christian's awesomeness. He had just chosen well. Yes, he will be wise, far beyond me.
And me. I think that he's bringing out the best in Camorn, and what's wrong with him?
Fiona's voice went from light to shocked as she turned to the Callie vampire. Balthazar's head snapped towards Camorn, who was now standing like a statue, stiff and even unblinking, with an expression on his face of almost horror. No, not almost. Definitely horror. What is going on here? Balthazar's mind reached out to Camorn's faster than his eyes did. He heard two people talking. It confused him at first, but then he realized that Camorn was being controlled by someone. The Callie vampire was unable to move or speak or do anything. What is going on here? Is there another Iros vampire here? Ah! Balthazar gasped and clutched his head as the person inside of Camorn's head turned towards him and attacked. There was the sense of claws digging into his brain, raking at him, turning him into a raw nerve and nothing else. Iros, such a long time. I cannot say I missed you. The sexless voice crashed into his mind with every word. Not quite as good at this as you once were. Shame, but I crushed you then, so I'll crush you now. In that moment, Balthazar knew who this was, though he had never spoken to Callie, in this life anyways. He recognized them now, and there was something familiar, though, something familiar from this life, but he couldn't isolate it. That thought flew away, though, as he realized he had one shot to send up a flare. Just before being plunged into darkness, Balthazar sent out a shout to the Vampire King. Callie! Damon! Callie is here! The Well of All Souls! He experienced a spinning sensation. Everything blurred, became dark, and then Balthazar found himself on his knees in the mud in a field. There were sparse tufts of tall grass that were splashed with blood stretching out to the horizon. The low drone of flies filled his ears. There was a rumble of thunderstorms far in the distance. The sky was right at dusk, or was it dawn? Dawn. The sun will rise in moments. It had been so long since he had seen sunlight filtering along the horizon that he almost forgot to fear it. But then the panic set in, and he scrambled to his feet. His bare feet. He wasn't wearing shoes. His feet sank into the wet mud that smelled heavily of copper. Blood. My God, how much blood would it take to get the ground this wet? And then he saw the bodies, lying 3 feet deep in spots, sprawled out, flies alighting on them, then flying almost drunkenly away after feeding and breeding. Wrenched limbs, torn-out throats, twisted necks, snapped spines. He staggered backwards only to feel a body brush against the back of his left calf. He reeled away from that. Where am I? It doesn't matter. Got to get to cover. The sun is coming. But the smell of the blood was sickening him as well as arousing him. His fangs were out, saliva filled his mouth. But this was dead blood, blood that was already starting to rot. What happened here? Please tell me that this isn't real. So many dead. Christian? Is Christian among them? But he saw no bright thatch of blonde hair. He felt that even in the wash of blood, he would have been able to pass out his fledglings. And I would be dead if Christian were taken, because I would not allow anyone to touch him unless I was gone. But his eyes searched the faces of the corpses around him, looking for those he recognized. No Fiona, no Arceus, no Camorn. He was surprisingly thankful for that. Camorn would fight for Christian too. I know he would. He shook himself. He could not just stand here and let the sun burn him to a crisp. Yet he saw no structure he could hide in. He looked at the bodies, and his lips writhed back from his teeth in disgust. There was only one way he could shelter himself from the ever-burning light. You could burrow underneath the corpses, Iros, to avoid the sun. But why bother? Why not embrace it? Because you are going to die anyway, Callie hissed. Balthazar spun around. A woman with long black hair stood behind him. Her dusky skin glowed with health. She wore a black sheath dress with a slit up to her shapely thigh. She too was shoeless, and gore stretched up from her delicate feet to her knees. Though Callie inhabited a different form than Artemis Lucius, and was a different gender, Balthazar knew them. His fangs ached with the desire to rip out that throat. Balthazar's eyes narrowed. If I am going to burn away, then so are you, Callie. The sun spares none of us. What? This body? Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. Callie laughed. It was a tinkling, almost beautiful sound. Callie held up a delicate hand into the growing light. But this body means nothing to me. I can watch while it burns up and just float away to another form. But you, a cruel smile crossed those full lips. But you have only the body you wear now. If it burns, you burn. Balthazar swallowed. You're not Wyvern. You couldn't have truly physically brought me here, so this is in my head. But how can they be doing this? This is something like an Eiros would do. Callie smirked. You, of all people, Eiros, should know that what's in your mind is in your reality. Balthazar scanned the horizon again. He was still looking for any structure he could hide in from the sun. He felt its warmth against his legs and caressing his back through the shirt he wore. Panic fluttered in his chest because Callie was right. This felt real. So burning to death would also likely feel real. And if this was truly in his mind, Callie could keep this torment going on for what felt like forever. Time meant nothing in the mind. A moment could stretch out for an eternity. Roan had shown him this. How many times had he been imprisoned in some hellhole, tortured and then released after what had seemed like years, only to find that minutes had passed? How is Callie doing this, though?
As a vampire, I can tell you that I like my man to have a close shave before we, dine. So I make sure that he uses top quality products from Manscaped to get that clean and smooth look and feel all over. No razor burn when I put my lips anywhere on his body, from down there to his throat. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is what I recommend before spending from dusk till dawn, getting to know whether he and I will be spending eternity together. With an advanced dual head system and skin-safe blades, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is a next-gen groomer that'll give you the power to trim, shave, and shape your hair to your liking, and mine. Designed to give you a skin-close shave, almost as sharp as my fangs, use skin-safe trimmer blade to take a little off the top, then go in with a skin-safe foil blade for a smooth finish. If anything or anyone is going to draw blood, it won't be your blades from Manscaped. It'll be me. I'm not the only beast in this relationship. This battery is one too. Spend more time trimming, less time charging, with a 7,000 mAh battery that holds a charge for up to 60 minutes. Need to freshen up ASAP because I have to have a little bite to eat? The quick charge option will set you right. It's also strong until the last stroke. Constant RPMs prevent the blade from slowing down as the battery drains, and I drain you, which helps reduce the risk of pulling hairs. I do so hope that you check out Manscaped and its amazing products. Believe me, they are vampire approved. To get 20% off and free shipping, use the code VAMPIRE at www.manscaped.com. Remember, use the word VAMPIRE to get 20% off and free shipping.
Callie spread their arms. But the body, the physical realm, is something that is so limited. Even the mind is, but the soul. Oh, the soul is vast and endless. Balthazar swallowed. Maybe this wasn't just in his head. Maybe Callie had somehow yanked his soul out of his body or something. No, they haven't done that. They couldn't have done that. You already died here once. Callie cocked her head to the side with another sly smile. Do you remember? Balthazar remembered then how Elgar had spoken about finding his head, then clutching it to his chest as he burrowed into the corpses. It had been on the battlefield where Eiros had died. That had happened here. That was here. Oh, dear God. Callie was smiling and nodding as they saw that Balthazar understood what was going to happen. I'm going to remind you, Eiros. I'm going to make you live it over and over again. Hell no! Balthazar tensed and reached out for Callie's mind. You're going to let me go! He touched Callie's mind, ready to make the other immortal into his puppet, or at least make Callie return him to the Well of All Souls. Callie's eyes widened for a moment, but then a hand fastened about Balthazar's ankle, and his concentration was lost. Callie's mind ghosted away from his control. Damn it! What the hell? Balthazar looked down as one of the dead vampires dug his long fingernails into his flesh. Pain erupted in his leg. Oh, hell no! Rage-filled, Balthazar shook that grasping hand from his ankle before kicking the vampire's head with his other foot. The head snapped back, the skull caving in, the neck letting out a crack as the spine broke. But it didn't stop moving. Those empty, cataract-covered eyes looked up at him. The corpse smiled. Balthazar brought his foot down on that skull with all his strength. It crushed under his foot. He grimaced as the vampire's dead brain gushed around his bare foot and between his toes. He went to reach for Callie's mind again, but then another hand grabbed his other leg, and another hand grasped his thigh, but not in a nice way, and another, and another, and another. They were all around him, dozens, no, hundreds. The dead vampires dragged him down into the mud. The weight of them was shoving him knee-deep in the stinking, foul mass. Fingernails ripped at his skin. He felt them tearing his flesh. Some of them slid into his mouth. He bit down on them. Dead blood burst over his tongue. He spat out those digits only to have more reach inside of him and stretch his mouth wide. His cheeks began to rip open. His own blood flooded his mouth and poured down his throat. A terrible thirst immediately assailed him, even as it seemed he was drinking endlessly. He tried to reach their minds, but there was nothing there. The dead had no minds, and Callie seemed like the faintest pinprick of light in the far distance, but he had to get to it. But hands plunged into his body, breaking the skin and worming their way inside of him. He felt fingers wiggling against his organs, sliding beneath his ribs. They were pulling out his organs. His guts were like streamers being passed from hand to hand. He screamed, but only a gurgle came out. Pain like nothing he'd ever felt corkscrewed through him. Then they gouged out his eyes. He felt them pop and fingers wriggle inside. Complete darkness fell. Must get to Callie's mind. This isn't happening. This isn't happening. I make my reality. He collapsed onto his back, and they were ripping his limbs off. First his right leg, then his left. Both arms were wrenched from his body. His head would be next. That was how Elgar got it to hold and caress and love. They'd literally ripped his head from his body. As he felt his skin break and the tendons stretch, he reached out for Callie's mind desperately. That faint flicker in the darkness. He reached. It felt like his fingertips were just barely scraping along a wall. He hooked Callie's mind, just the smallest bit. He immediately heard Callie's outsidemost thoughts, which were ones of absolute glee. They were enjoying his agony, practically orgasming with it. It was just like Roan. No. It wasn't just like him. It was him. Callie was Roan. Roan was Callie. House Winter had revealed that Callie could inhabit other bodies, other vampires, other bloodline vampires. And Callie had been in Roan, using him like a puppet, torturing Balthazar and all of his house. So you finally figured it out, Callie giggled. Did you ever wonder why Roan was so different at times? So loving, and then so cold, and then so— No, that can't be you. Not you. Not you. Balthazar was screaming, but only inside his head. His vocal cords were broken. He was nearly out of blood. He was reduced to a single point of pain in an endless sea of blackness. I admit that I didn't see you killing Roan's body. Callie sounded amused. You did surprise me. I suppose I should have looked into you then, known at that time that you were more than you seemed, understood why I enjoyed hurting you so much more than the others. And as Balthazar settled into his icy, unbelievable rage, he realized that he and Caemorn had always had something in common. He could recognize it now. Even as they fought against one another, they'd both been Callie's fledglings, and he felt a burst of sympathy for Caemorn. I should have saved him too. Balthazar laughed dryly as he realized something else. So this is in my head. Callie is using the Eiros gift now. They are using another Eiros vampire to do it. That's a mistake. There's no one stronger than me. Not in this. Because this is all in my head. And I rule my mind, along with everyone else's. Balthazar had no body, no vocal cords, no eyes, no limbs, no heart. All of it had been ripped apart by the dead. But he had his mind. So he could see as the dead moved away, so that Callie could gaze down upon the ruin of him. He could feel the dead drift off, because he wasn't truly ripped apart. He hadn't been given his second death. He was right there and ready to go. Eiros, you truly disappoint me. I thought this would be harder somehow. Callie sighed. Balthazar spoke. I haven't got started yet. Callie spun around to see Balthazar behind them, and then he shoved himself through all of their defenses and nestled deep in their mind. Callie's mouth parted and their eyes went huge. Balthazar smiled at them. The corpses, who had swung around to deal with him, fell to pieces all around them. Like sacks of meat, they turned to ash in seconds as Callie's control was totally lost. The sun disappeared beyond the horizon. Full night fell. They were standing on a black plain, completely empty of anything. Even the smell of blood was gone. He wanted a fresh slate to work with. I didn't recognize this form, but I do now, Balthazar said as he started to circle Callie, arms crossed at the wrists behind his back. Her name is Moira. She's an impressive Eiros, but she's nothing compared to me. You might be able to use other bloodlines' gifts, but you're not as powerful as the immortal who granted them. Seems you forgot that, Callie. Callie's eyes tracked him. They lost him as he went around their back, and he felt Callie's fear swell. The immortal had few fears, but not being in control was one of the largest of them. Being in his control was especially huge. What should I do to you first? Balthazar murmured. Let's start with this. Dozens of spears of glass, razor-sharp and thick as 2 fingers, thrust through Callie's body. Blood, rich and thick, streamed down the glass and pattered on the ground. Those eyes went huge with pain. You can't leave, Callie. You can't get away. I have you here, and I can keep you here forever. Balthazar whispered in the other immortal's ear. Think on that. Forever. In my power, forever. In my control, forever. A victim, not a victor. I can and will make you pay for everything you've done. His voice had risen up to a scream at the end. He was shaking with rage. He felt Callie wanting to speak, so he let them. Don't you want to know if it was me or Roan that made you? Callie smiled, as blood gushed out of their mouth and down their chin in a torrent. Balthazar's fingernails dug into his palms, drawing blood, but his voice was cool as he said, truthfully, it doesn't matter. Oh, surely it would have once. Balthazar cut him off, but not anymore. Truly? Because I have Damon again, Balthazar said, and the silence that fell was so wonderful to hear. You pathetic little worm. You've wanted his love and friendship, but you're incapable of having it. You're so pathetic, he grinned mercilessly. Damon is back, and he's back with me, not you. I sit by his side. I will help him rule over everything. I will get his smiles and make him laugh. He trusts me with his beloved fledgling. With every word, Callie grew more still and greyness coated their skin. Balthazar wrenched the spears out and restored them to full health in their mind. Callie might be able to slip away if they thought they died. He speared them again, starting the process all over again. And here's another thing for you to know. Caemorn, you know, the other fledgling that you've abused for who knows how long, he's got Damon more than you do, Balthazar said with a sour laugh. I really do think after he learns about all of this, well, I think that even Caemorn will find some forgiveness, because having you as a master is as bad as it gets. Again he wrenched the spears from Callie, restored them and slammed them home again. Feels as terrible as the first time, doesn't it? Balthazar was shaking fully now with such poisonous rage he felt he almost couldn't contain it. Don't worry, it'll change. It'll feel worse. Again and again and again he speared Callie. Iros. A familiar voice rose up all around them. Balthazar saw that the blackness had become the ever-dark sky. Callie's pained expression had become one of panic. Iros, my beloved friend, Damon said, his voice warm and gentle. The trembling in Balthazar eased. Come back. Bring Callie with you. I must end this. Join us next time for episode 110, Wyvern.
Original work is harder and harder to find in a world full of reactions, commentary, plagiarism, and generic ChatGPT content. And I'm really glad you found us. Every word of this story is from me, typed into my laptop while sitting on my couch. And a real person spoke every word into a microphone as well, not an AI voice. I got into producing stories because I care about entertaining you, the human who's listening to this right now. And while we certainly could have had a bot army to listen to episodes, leave realistic comments, and make us look really popular, it just wouldn't be satisfying. I'm glad you're with me for this story, and I would love it if you left a comment just to say hello.
Everdark, episode 110, Wyvern. Last on Everdark, Balthazar faces off against Callie, only to realize that one of the bodies that Callie inhabited was his master's, Roan Tithe. Rage fills Balthazar, and he takes control of Callie's mind, torturing them like he was tortured. Only Damon's intervention stopped Balthazar from falling into full darkness. We now turn to Fiona. Earlier, Fiona felt the air thicken, and the temperature drop even further before the ghosts stopped streaming towards the Well of All Souls. It was as if time stopped. She blinked, and the souls were pouring upwards. They reared up like a tidal wave around the well itself, and they hung there before they crested and flowed outwards towards Caemorn, Balthazar, and herself.
Balthazar!
She gasped and reached for his shoulder, ready to teleport them out of the way. But he wasn't there. Her head jerked towards where the other vampire should have been, but instead of standing beside her, Balthazar had collapsed to the ground. Her mouth opened in an O of horror and surprise. What had happened? Had he been given his second death? Had his soul been sucked out of his body? She glanced up. The souls were flying towards them, mouths opened in howls of rage, eyes black pits that showed a fierce and terrible glee, fingers outstretched like claws ready to rip them apart. There was only one thing she could do to help Balthazar and herself. She dropped to her knees and put her hands on Balthazar's chest, just as she felt the cold, clammy fingertips of the nearest ghost touch her knee. She teleported them away from this place. They landed only about 500 feet from the Well of All Souls, a small opening in the midst of the trees that she had noticed on their walk to this place. They were out of sight of the ghosts, if the ghosts actually needed to see them to find them. She turned Balthazar over onto his back. His eyes were closed and his lips were parted. He looked asleep. His eyeballs moved under his closed lids as if he were in REM sleep. She slapped his cheeks, at first lightly, and then harder.
Balthazar! Balthazar!
She hissed frantically.
You've got to wake up, damn it! You've got to wake up, Christian is in trouble!
She looked towards the Well of All Souls, and it looked to be a wash of white. The souls were so close together that she couldn't see the well or the trees or anything. She certainly didn't see Christian, who had sunk down into the rush of spirits, and she didn't see Caemon either.
Balthazar, God damn you, wake up!
She cried. But Balthazar's head just lolled from side to side with cheeks reddening with every slap, but not consciousness opening his eyes or lightening his lips. He was well and truly unconscious. He couldn't help her. He was down for the count. Fiona struggled to her feet. Her right knee, which the ghosts had touched, felt like it had a dead spot in the center. She fiercely rubbed her hand over it, and sensation started to come back almost immediately. It tingled painfully as it came back to life.
That was just one touch. What's happened to Christian and Caemon, who were in the middle of all this?
She had to get them away from the ghosts. If she went to get help now, it might be too late for them. No, she would have to teleport in and out so fast that the ghosts wouldn't even know she was there before she wrenched them out of harm's way.
This will take pinpoint teleporting,
she thought, and drew in a deep breath and narrowed her eyes. She could do this. She pictured in her head exactly where she'd seen Christian sink down into the mist of ghosts. She could picture the edge of the well, the way the stone was cracked and smoothed down almost as if the passage of the spirits had worn it down like water does to mountains. She imagined how many spans of her own hands it was between Christian and the stone lip. She could almost feel Christian's body underneath her hands.
I've got you.
She teleported, and her hands closed around slender shoulders that were so cold they nearly froze her palms. She gasped and released Christian. She let out a cry of despair as she couldn't see an inch in front of her face. She blindly reached out for Christian. She thought she was reaching for where his shoulders had been, but her hands encountered nothing but empty air.
Christian, where are you? Reach back to me.
Fiona gasped. Her teeth were chattering so badly that these sentences came out as chopped syllables and were likely unintelligible. She dropped down onto her haunches and put her hands on the ground and inched forward towards where she knew Christian ought to be. He likely had collapsed on his side after she'd let him go. Why had she let go?
Damn it, I will not let Christian die.
Her fingers were completely numb. She only knew that they were still on the ground and moving because she was leaning forward and resting her weight upon them as she continued to crab crawl towards Christian.
Christian!
Her teeth chattered like castanets.
Christian? Where are you? Answer me.
The deadening cold stretched from her fingertips to her elbows now. It felt like her forearms might just snap off at the joint. That cold kept moving up and up. She imagined what it would feel like touching her head, her mind.
I should leave here. It's not safe. I can't do anything to help anyone. I need to run away. Just teleport to Damon. Tell him what happened. I can't do anything. I'm just a normal vampire. I'm not special. I'm just...
A girl's face floated before her in the pulsing wave of ghosts. 4 years old, plump cheeks, cornrows in her hair, a smile that caused dimples to form, a faint scar on her chin. Fiona tilted her head to the side. This ghost's face was familiar. But surely not. Libby had died so long ago, so very long.
Please tell me she's not still here. Why hasn't she moved on?
The girl, her baby sister, smiled at her, so winsomely and warmly as she always had that the deadening cold seemed to retreat for a moment.
You need to help them, Fiona,
Libby said, though there were no words.
You need to help them.
I can't. I am just one person. I'm just...
No, you aren't. You've always been different. Special. Don't you know? Don't you remember?
Libby pressed her. still smiling even as she was clearly asking Fiona to remember that terrible night.
I don't want to remember,
Fiona told her, not with her lips. Those were numb and they felt like they were sewn together with frost.
You have to remember. You have to understand yourself. Come on, Fee. Remember.
Libby urged.
For me? Please, Fee.
The memory came over Fiona of a house filled with smoke from a fire, of her on the ground in the second-floor hallway of her home, thinking she was going towards her little sister's bedroom door, only to find herself near the stairs, which was the exact opposite direction. The smoke was so thick that she had gotten turned around somehow. She turned her head to look back at where her sister's room should be, but it was all smoke and the reflected light of flames.
The fire is coming. I need to get out, but Libby...
The fire roared around her. The smoke was so thick it felt like she was breathing in water. Her eyes blurred and stung. Tears left her eyes only to dry from the fierce heat half an inch from her tear ducts.
Go to get Libby.
Fiona turned on her hands and knees. The wooden floor pressed against the bruises she'd gotten from playing outside that day. The floor was hot, and her hands felt like sausages baking on the flat-top grill at the restaurant her father worked at, as she shuffled back towards where she hoped her sister's room was. She imagined them splitting, and the fat spilling out of them and sizzling as it hit the floor. She would only be able to feel the terrible rents in her skin and not see them happening as the smoke was so thick that she could see nothing. She would not hear the sizzling of her own fat either, as the fire roared so loudly that it was deafening. She slid her right hand forward and let out a scream that she couldn't hear. It was too hot, too hot. She imagined flames licking the underside of the wood. She was being baked. The house was an oven. She tried sliding forward again, but the heat was like a wall pushing her back. She retreated inch by inch by inch, even as she screamed her sister's name. But it was like screaming into the void. The fire consumed her words. Suddenly her knee had found open air instead of more floor, and she tumbled backwards. She bounced down several steps and landed on her side in the middle of the stairwell. She drew in a ragged breath that was more soot and heat than air. Her throat closed so tight she could only get the faintest trickle of air down it now. She turned her head and thrust her face down to the floor and where the last of the clean air was. She opened her lips against the wooden stairs. She breathed against the hard material. A faint little stream of clean air flowed into her lungs, keeping her barely alive, a thin thread of oxygen.
You need to go, Fiona.
A familiar voice told her. Her head jerked up and she took in another lungful of smoke. She couldn't speak, yet she somehow said in her mind,
Libby?
You need to go, Fiona.
Her baby sister told her, but the voice didn't seem to be attached to a body.
For new members, it can be overwhelming to get hit with my entire story archive at once. So I want to tell you about one of my greatest hits, The Elven King's Blade. It's high fantasy. Here's the blurb. Elven King Athodin and modern human Kieran are unknowingly bonded across realms, but unless they complete the bond, they will die. Discovering his blade as human is impossible for Athodin to accept. For Kieran's part, accepting his fate to save an elven kingdom is just as hard to take. The Elven King's Blade is a fan favorite, and I hope you check it out if you decide to become a member of my serial website, wraithrain.com.
Fiona swept her arms through the air all around her, but no Libby. No pretty, plump girl with laughing brown eyes and hair in cornrows. No warm body to embrace and carry down the stairs like she had every morning.
Libby!
Frantically, she grabbed at the smoke, but no sister.
You're not bound to this place like most people are, Fiona.
Her little sister, though, was it Libby? Said.
You need to go. Just let go.
No, I have to find you.
I've found you.
Where are you? Come here. I'll carry you down.
No, Fee. You can't leave by the stairs.
Fiona didn't just feel the heat from the second floor now. She felt it from below. Smoke was all around her, blocking out the stairway that curled down to the first floor of their home. But she could see orange and red and yellow through that dense grey smoke below her.
Libby, we're trapped. There's fire down below too.
Yes, there is. You only have a few moments left, so you have to go, Fee.
Her sister told her more firmly. The fire roared like an animal. She could hear the snap and crack of wood as it broke apart with the heat and the flames. There was no way down. None.
I can't get out, Libby.
You're not trapped. Neither of us is. Let go, Fiona. Let go.
The voice said.
Imagine air. Clean air. Endless amounts of it.
I can't.
Imagine our front yard. The white steps. The cracked path. The chalk we left there yesterday. Remember?
Yes.
Imagine picking up the piece of pink chalk, Fee. Imagine the feel of the chalk in your hands. Dry and powdery and a little silky. Can you imagine it?
I can.
Fiona closed her eyes to the smoke and the heat and the flames and concentrated just as her sister had said. When she opened them, she was on her knees on the pathway that led to her house. There was no smoke, only the night sky and the chirr of crickets. She blinked her raw eyes, which still stung from the smoke, but her vision cleared enough and she saw the pink chalk lying discarded on the rough stone in front of her. She picked it up.
The chalk! Libby!
There was an explosion and the sound of glass tinkling. Her head jerked towards her home.
Libby!
Flames roared out of the upstairs windows like a monster's call to battle. In the background, she heard the thin wail of the fire engines coming. As she watched, the flames consumed her sister's bedroom window. She knew that Libby was dead, gone to a place she could not follow. She'd been 9 when this had happened. She hadn't been a vampire yet, but she'd teleported out of danger all the same. She'd pushed all of that out of her mind. If she'd thought about it at all, she'd had believed it a dream, something of her new second life mixing with her first. But it wasn't. It was true. Fiona focused again on the spirit's face. It was Libby's face. Her sister smiled at her.
How did I teleport before I became a vampire, Libby?
Fiona asked. Her sister tilted her head and laughed.
You know why. You can be anywhere. You can go everywhere. Nothing binds you. Because you are...
Wyvern.
Fiona spoke out loud.
Yes, you are. Wyvern.
Her sister smiled and laughed and faded into the sea of ghosts.
Thank you, Libby.
Warmth flooded her deadened limbs. She got to her feet. There was a wild grin on her face. She didn't blindly reach for Christian. She simply willed herself to be holding him, and she was. She then teleported them both to where Balthazar still lay unconscious. Out of the fog of ghosts, she could see that Christian was unconscious too. She gently laid his slender form against Balthazar's. Though both of them were gone from the world, they turned towards one another. They weren't asleep. They weren't unconscious from blows. She narrowed her eyes. Their souls were somehow pulled out from their bodies. Not fully, not yet. Callie had trapped them both somehow. She wasn't sure how to make that right. She worried that if she teleported them fully out of the danger, that the distance might break whatever held their souls to their bodies. This was as far as she dared to take them.
Hold on, both of you. I'm getting Camorn,
she said. She was back on her feet and willing herself to Camorn. He was standing, unlike the other two, but he made no sound or movement when her arms went around his waist. "Where do you think you're taking them?" a silky, smooth voice asked. She had met Artemis Elusius only once, but she recognized his voice and his body. The ghosts cleared, and she saw that there were 2 figures standing in the moving mists of the spirit forms. The one nearest her, the one that had spoken, was Artemis. He was beautiful, with golden hair and an angelic face. She thought to get her bow that was strapped across her back, but she'd be dead before she could move an inch. Artemis might look like a beautiful teenager, but he was not. They had stopped allowing the turning of children, even teenagers. In the past, children were treated as small adults, not as beings who hadn't fully matured yet. But they knew better now. Artemis had been created at a time before then, and Fiona understood why. He truly looked like an angel fallen to earth. "I wouldn't take Camorn and the others away from here, Fiona," Artemis said smoothly. He was dressed in a long frock coat of dark black silk, black pants and knee-high black boots with buckles. His blonde hair hung to his shoulders. Fiona thought she felt Caemorn stiffen even more, if that was possible. Clearly she'd been right that there was some problem taking them away from here.
Why is that?
She asked back just as smoothly, putting on what she thought of as her order personality. The cold and unfeeling Fiona. The Fiona that was encased in ice. Like a magician, Artemis lifted up his right hand, fingers spread wide, and in between them were 2 gems. Because this is where their souls are. One for Christian, one for Balthazar.
Iros.
She corrected. Artemis's eyebrows lifted. Iros? Yes, I see.
No, I don't think you do. Who is that? The woman.
She gestured with her head towards the shadowy figure who stood like a mannequin in a shop window. Never you mind, Artemis smiled.
Is that another of Callie's forms? Can they control more than one body at a time? I see 2 gems in your hand, but not 3. Yet Caemorn is not himself.
Fiona kept a firm hold on Caemorn. She needed the right moment to get him with the others, and then she knew exactly what she was going to do. Caemorn is my fledgling. There's no need for another cell. Artemis palmed the 2 gems after smiling at them for a moment. I am his prison. I am his jailer. Fiona was chilled by that response.
This is foolish,
she said.
Whatever short-term plan you have going here against Damon won't last. He'll find you. He'll destroy you.
I am not so easy to destroy. Artemis's gaze was distant.
Is Callie not fully with me? Maybe distracted somehow? That's good. What is your endgame? Why are you doing this?
She asked. Artemis focused on her again. There was a sheen of sweat on his head. The female figure wavered too. Artemis's voice was still smooth as he said, Damon must earn his crown.
So you think you're helping him by being his adversary?
Fiona could not hide her disbelief. Tell me that you didn't want to test him yourself. You wanted to know his intentions, didn't you? Artemis challenged her with an upraised eyebrow. She nodded.
I wanted to think that we had a choice about him being king or not. That if he wasn't worthy, then...
Then you would deny him the throne. Artemis nodded.
Knowing what I know now, I realize how foolish that is.
She answered evenly.
He is beyond me, beyond you, and like it or not, he is our king.
You are right. He is inevitable, but he can learn, Artemis told her. He can still be taught lessons, even by those beneath him.
Are there any above him?
She lifted an eyebrow. True, there are not. All the more reason for lessons to be taught and learned.
So you're trying to teach Damon some lesson?
Fiona qualified.
What lesson is that?
That there are consequences to leaving his responsibilities, leaving us, Artemis said. He swallowed and swayed. His face went paler than pale. The female figure went down on one knee with a shrill cry. Artemis could only gasp out, that those consequences have long shadows. Artemis's eyelids fluttered shut. That was what she was waiting for. She teleported to Artemis, her hand already in the pocket where the gems were. Artemis's eyelids flew open just as her hand closed around them. He skinned his lips back from his teeth and hissed at her. He tried to grab her, but she teleported away to Caemorn right out of his hands. And then she immediately teleported Caemorn to Christian and Balthazar. She had their soul gems, but even so, she wasn't sure if it was safe to move them from this place, so she slipped the gems into Balthazar's pocket. With one final look over her shoulder towards the well, she teleported to the one person who could fix all this.
Fiona!
Julian goggled as she appeared by them in what looked like a control room in a museum. Wyvern, Damon said, recognizing her. Take me to the Well of All Souls. I must end this with Callie. She nodded, and teleported herself and her king back to the Everdark. Join us next time for episode 111. Just Ask.
If you don't think of yourself as that much of a reader, I understand. I don't think of myself as a typical author either. I'm a storyteller.
and my only goal is to entertain you with exciting tales of romance and adventure, just like Everdark. I write what I like to read, and that's why you get hot heroes and badass villains, magical powers, fantasy worlds, and, of course, cliffhangers. It's a lot of fun for everyone, and I hope you decide to join in.
The link to sign up is in the notes.
Everdark, Episode 111. Just Ask. Earlier. Christian pulled away from Callie's hand, which was cupping his cheek in a parody of affection. His skin crawled at the idea of this being who seemed to have no compunction over stealing souls touching him. His own soul was now included in that number, he supposed.
He's not really physically here, nor am I. Can I use that to my advantage somehow?
The gem seemed to have no doors. The floor was smooth and black. It almost looked wet as it gleamed, and in its reflective surface, the facets of the gem above him were shown as thin white lines.
How can I get out of here? I got in here somehow.
Do you like your new home? Callie asked, arms crossed at the wrists behind his back. Christian's gaze focused back on Callie's angelic face. He realized that this was likely his Artemis Eleusis body. He had the perfect Callie hair, pale as spun silk with metallic sheen. It contrasted well with the black leather he wore from boots to the long coat. The lines of his face were almost delicate. Those pink lips were curled into an almost natural smile. Christian wondered who Artemis was when Callie did not inhabit his body. Was Artemis still inhabiting that body? Or did Callie simply store the bodies they used like cordwood, stiff and unmoving and unoccupied, until they returned to them? Or maybe Callie kept a portion of themselves in all the bodies they inhabited, rather like a hive mind. There was so much he didn't know, and he feared that without that knowledge, he was in grave trouble.
I'm not staying here,
Christian said flatly.
and you do best to release me immediately.
Callie's delicate eyebrows rose in amusement. Really? Would it be best for me to do so?
You can gain nothing by keeping me here. In fact, every moment you do, you will only anger King Damon more,
Christian said. He is already very angry with me. That smile grew slightly.
Anything to get his attention.
Christian prodded. That smile faded slightly, but then returned as Callie nodded. I suppose that is what it must seem like.
It is what it is.
Christian stated.
Whatever else you think you're doing, it is quite apparent that you want Damon's attention. And if doing bad things gets his eye upon you, then that's what you'll do.
Callie delicately shrugged his shoulders. I expected more from you, Christian. Christian wondered if antagonizing Callie was the wisest course. He needed to find a way out, but somehow he thought Callie leaving would somehow make that impossible. He didn't want to be alone in this empty space.
Balthazar will come. Damon will come. Julian will make sure of it. I will not be left here.
You look a little concerned, Christian. If the accommodations are truly not to your liking, well, they can't be changed. But perhaps if you amuse me, I might let you out. When I'm not using your body, Callie said. Christian's heart slammed against his chest.
You can't do that.
Why would I waste good souls? All of the souls of all of the bodies that I inhabit I keep. Callie patted over his heart. Christian guessed that there was a hidden pocket in Callie's coat in the real world where he kept filled soul gems.
They'll know you're not me. Julian will know. Balthazar will know. Damon will know. We're nothing alike,
Christian stated. The thought of Callie in his body, were they already in it, was appalling. He would feel his body was unclean forever after that. But worse would be if Callie used it to hurt the ones he cared about, those few that he had opened his heart up to. If Callie hurt them, yes, perhaps. But even if they do, they won't be able to do anything to me because I'll be in a beloved body, your body. And hurting me means hurting you, Callie told them. But I think we're more alike than you know.
Why are you doing this?
Christian asked through clenched teeth. But instead of a smirk or sneer, Callie's expression had gone curiously blank, as if this body was merely an avatar, and the immortal had put down his controller for a moment. Christian's eyes narrowed.
What's going on here?
Christian took a step towards Callie. Those silver eyes remained blank. The body did not move. He took another step.
I should try to access his mind. Make him tell me how to get out of here.
Christian knew that he had barely begun to use his Eiros mind control ability. As an immortal, Callie likely had faced far better than him and won. If he was as powerful and skilled as Balthazar, maybe he would have a shot. But without a lot of luck, and a hugely distracted Callie, he couldn't see how he had any chance at all.
But he is distracted. Look at him. Maybe I can just get a hook into him while he's not paying attention.
But then Callie's silver eyes focused on him. Callie blinked. He had not expected Christian to be so close, obviously. Christian took a step back as Callie said, "You know why I'm doing this. I didn't take you for a fool, Christian. Please don't play one."
Damon will come. He will stop you. Hurting me is a foolish thing. It will only cause you more grief.
Christian pointed out as he kept himself just out of arm's reach, but nearer than he had originally been. If Callie grew distracted again, he would be ready. Not as much grief as it will cause Damon. There was a mirthless smile on Callie's almost angelic face, but strain was there as well. Christian could see no cause for that strain in this place. Something on the outside must be going wrong for Callie. That was good. Maybe it was Balthazar or one of the others. You are his fledgling's best friend. You are the fledgling of his best friend.
It causes you pain to think of Balthazar as closer to him than you, despite the fact that you're going up against him.
Christian pointed out.
Is he simply hurt that Damon prefers Balthazar to him?
Christian wondered.
Despite him saying that we're nothing alike, he reminds me a little of myself before Julian and I became friends.
What are you thinking? An uncertain smile played across Callie's face.
I was just thinking that perhaps you're right, that we share some similarities.
Christian admitted. Really? What?
Before Julian, I had a hard time connecting with people.
Christian paused and licked his lips. He could still remember when Julian had stopped bullies at school that were about to attack him for simply looking at them funny. I can connect with people. I choose not to, Callie answered. His voice was clipped.
I would have thought that you would have had thicker skin than you do. But perhaps, being an immortal, no one truly speaks their minds to you.
Christian said coolly. Callie's cheek twitched.
Before Julian, I thought I was above wanting people to like me. If they didn't appreciate who I was, how I was, then that was their problem, and it meant that they weren't worth my time.
That sounds wise to me.
And it's true, to a certain extent. But I think we both know that it's not that easy or clear-cut, because people react to what they're presented with. If it's different, they are, I believe, hardwired to distrust it, or even dislike it, because difference means danger. Until they can be assured that such difference is safe as acceptable, they retreat.
Then they will learn nothing new at all. Callie responded softly.
Some of them won't. They'll remain afraid and will reject all differences. But there are some people, like Julian, and I believe like Damon, who are not that way at all.
Christian continued, watching Callie's face to see if there would be another moment of distraction. But there was not. Callie was very alert.
Not that they're naive or blind to danger, but they believe there's more out there that's wonderful than will hurt them.
Your Julian saved you from being alone? Callie smirked.
Julian helped me to be open to new experiences and people. He liked me, and I realized it was possible for people to like me and for me to like them. I'm still particular about who I let in, but Julian helped me to get to this point. He makes me feel safe.
Christian said.
And that's how I imagine Damon made you feel.
Callie's smirk did not twitch, but it was too stiff to be real.
But then he went away,
Christian said.
And you didn't feel safe. You felt betrayed, especially when the war began and Damon wasn't there to set things right.
You think this is about something as petty as being liked? Callie's voice rose, not shrill, but high and sharp like fingernails dragging across a chalkboard. Being liked is for those who have nothing else to offer the universe. It is the pettiest of desires to be liked. Only the mundane are liked and count their worth by such things. Better to be hated. Christian smiled faintly.
But isn't that what we tell ourselves, because it protects us from believing there's something wrong with us?
Beads of sweat appeared on Callie's brow as if he were in the midst of battle despite standing still. Christian held his breath. Something was definitely happening outside of here.
Balthazar?
Christian called, and realized he had been stupid not to before. But it was a habit from being human, a habit from not being able to talk mind to mind.
Balthazar!
There was a sound of crackling in his mind for a moment, but then silence. He stretched out his senses. Could he reach Callie's mind? Just sense it, just a little. He felt a touch of pressure. Callie's voice was a little breathless, but it was still cutting. Those who seek to have others like them are sycophants. I am not a sycophant.
From the immortals I've met, neither are they.
Christian pointed out.
Balthazar might have a clever tongue and a rakish attitude that attracts people to a certain extent, but he's been on the outside all his life. Seer is quite pleasant, but she tells people what they don't want to hear all the time. She doesn't couch it in euphemisms either, but tells the truth in a straightforward way. I believe Damon appreciates those things about both of them. He doesn't like them in spite of it.
He didn't mention Fiona as Wyvern, as he wasn't sure whether Callie knew about her yet. But it was better to keep her true identity as a surprise for as long as possible. I see Damon's darkness, Callie said, which seemed strange for this immortal to care about, as darkness appeared to be his stock in trade. Christian pushed his senses closer to the pressure of Callie's mind. The words that Callie spoke next were interspersed with strange images from another place. You have no idea the power he wields. He saw spears appearing in midair, and then flying towards him, thrusting into his body. Blood. Blood. He has been starved for millennia, yet see what he can do. Christian could not feel the pain. The spears, glass and razor-sharp, disappeared. Callie, not a woman, another form, was restored. And then the spears were back. Imagine what he will be like when he is at full strength, and nothing can stop him.
He was at full strength in the past. You blame him for not using that strength,
Christian pointed out. Nausea racked him, and he was using all his strength to keep himself from throwing up. He reminded himself he wasn't in a body. He had no stomach, esophagus, or mouth. There was nothing inside of his spirit, nothing to vomit up. He was stronger then, true. But he was distracted because he could not make a fledgling, Callie answered. His face was pasty pale. Sweat dripped off the end of his chin. It grew upon like an obsession over time, and so crippled him. Christian had to give him credit for keeping on his feet. The world was starting to sway for him.
There is no world, no floor, no ceiling, no nothing. I have no body here. Now he has Julian. But why do I have a feeling you'll criticize him for allegedly being distracted by having a fledgling now?
Christian let out a soft laugh that was filled with bubbling sickness. More images came.
More spears. I keep seeing them. They don't stop. And crazed laughter and... Balthazar!
In a way, you see, he will use that strength to keep Julian safe, at all costs. That makes him more dangerous rather than less. No longer distracted, no longer crippled, but desperate to keep one tender young man happy. Callie mused, as he was shockingly steady despite being tortured. What will he do with the world to mold it into a place that will delight Julian?
I want to tell you about a completed werewolf romance story called Crimson. This was supposed to be a gay retelling of Little Red Riding Hood with werewolves. It didn't turn out that way, but it is a sweet and sexy tale of romance and found family. Here's the blurb. Gareth, alpha werewolf of the Cold Moon Pack, does not believe in mates. His friend went mad after his mate was killed, so Gareth resists love. But then he meets Jude Connor. Growing up an orphan, Jude experienced human cruelty and trusts no one. Still, he dreams of belonging to someone and being part of a family. Can he bring himself to trust Gareth and the Cold Moon Pack and make that dream a reality? Since the story is shorter at 47 chapters and not part of a larger story world, Crimson is a great place for new members to get started. If you do join us, I really hope you read this story and tell me what you think.
Julian doesn't need the world molded to be delighted.
Christian wiped cold sweat from his own forehead.
He finds happiness in most things. Even after you had his parents killed, he still found beauty and hope in the world.
Callie would have noticed his distress, if not for being under so much of his own. And that's what brought you here, isn't it? You were looking for the Harrows. Callie's pale eyebrow lifted even as his lips trembled. Clever,
Cameron helped me with the idea.
Christian said, wanting for some reason to lift up Callie's fledgling, to show Callie that Cameron was more than a puppet. Cameron is my fledgling. Of course I picked someone clever, Callie said, claiming all of Cameron's good qualities as his own doing. Christian wondered if he claimed the bad as well. A strange light appeared in Callie's silver eyes, and his voice almost became wheedling and strained, so strained. Do you know why you are a speaker to the dead? Christian strove not to frown. He merely shrugged.
Luck of the draw, I guess.
But Callie shook his head, and that platinum hair glimmered in the low light of the gem. No, there was no luck in it. Do you know of Roan Tithe, Balthazar's master this time around? Of course he knew of him. Christian studied that almost impish expression on Callie's face. The moment the idea came to him, it must have appeared on his face in some way.
The spears are back. Dear God, when will they end?
Callie nodded, even as his face was bloodless and his lips kept writhing back from his teeth in agony. I realize you're aware that I can inhabit any body I like. I enjoyed Roan's. You know what's odd? I didn't realize who Balthazar was all that time. That he was my old nemesis, Iros. I just knew I hated him. Christian swallowed. Nausea roiled him.
Were you inhabiting Roan's body when you turned Balthazar?
Oh, yes. And that's why I think you are a speaker to the dead. It was a mixture of my bloodline and Iros's that created you, Callie told him with a tremulous smile.
And the other speakers before me? How did they come about?
Christian asked, curious despite himself and the world spinning like a top. I've been having my fun in the other bloodlines from the beginning, though I haven't bothered myself to do it. I bet if you followed up, from fledgling to master, you'd find that I was always a part of that unique vampire's history. Callie sounded quite pleased with himself. There have been anomalies in other bloodlines, too, which likely can be attributed to me.
You sound so proud.
Christian's vision was blurring, or so it seemed because the facets of the gem were moving. I am proud of all I've done. Another tremulous smile, and more sweat pouring down Callie's face.
Can he even see me any longer? His voice sounds distant.
You should be grateful to me for what I'm doing, Callie murmured.
Is he even talking to me? Or to someone else? Which is?
Christian prompted. Showing him that there are consequences when he rules unwisely or seeks to abdicate responsibility. Callie's eyes narrowed, and it appeared he was seeing something else, not just Christian.
Who is he talking to? Balthazar? Balthazar, can you hear me?
Christian thought he saw a lightening of the darkness beyond the crystal's facet. Was that a way out? Maybe if he found the edge of the crystal that was lightest, he could... break it? He was in his spiritual form. He wasn't a physical entity here. But maybe the gem that he was seeing here was just a spiritual construct. Meaning if he thought he was breaking the gem here, then maybe his soul would be released from the gem. As idly as he could, Christian sidled towards the nearest facet. He slid his hands in his pockets, as if to appear like he was going on a stroll with no real object in mind. That was when he found the gem that contained David's soul.
There's not really a gem in my pocket here. I don't have pockets or pants. I'm a spirit.
Christian reminded himself.
But maybe this means that I can still call upon David here to assist me. But what could he do to help me against Callie, or this gem? Do you take no individual responsibility for what you did? And what of the other immortals? Are they children who cannot be trusted without Damon's watchful eye on them?
Christian asked quickly, as he saw that Callie was watching him again and not gazing at something or someone outside of this place. Covered in sweat and pasty pale, he was still formidable. He clutched the soul gem in his hand tighter still. Damon has told you that he is king, has he not? Repeated it constantly like some mantra, Callie said with an almost faint smile on his face.
Yes, and it's obvious he's the strongest, so...
You do not understand. a sickly smile. And then Callie continued, "We are meant to be ruled by him. We need him. And once he extends his reach to all of the humans, they will need him too. He must be made to learn, Christian, or everyone will pay for it." And then in that moment, Christian heard Damon's voice clear as day in Callie's mind. "Iros, Iros, my beloved friend, come back. Bring Callie with you. I must end this." Their gazes met. Callie realized that Christian had heard the words too. Desperation and an almost sick anticipation shone in his silver eyes. "Time to show Damon there are consequences," Callie said, and then lunged. Christian's hand closed around the soul gem. It powdered to dust in his hand. But there was a light, something between him and Callie. It distracted Callie for a moment, long enough for Christian to stagger back away from him. The light resolved into a figure. It was David. Callie let out a laugh as he realized what it was that was in his way. "A spirit! You are trying to use a spirit against me?" Callie giggled then. That's an interesting tactic." David was still between them. He was as solid as both of them, because they were all three spirits in this place. "Let me help you, Christian," David said. Christian started. It was the first time he had heard David's voice in ages. It was shocking. "Oh, I don't think so. Here, I rule," Callie cackled. "I know I did terrible wrong to you, and so many others," David said, "but mostly to you. I know that now, Christian, and I am so sorry. Please, let me help you." "How amusing. He thinks he can help you. An enemy, I see. Fascinating," Callie stated. Callie was completely grey, but he was still holding on, and Christian knew he was capable of doing something terrible. He would do something terrible. "Let me help you," David pleaded. "Let me make some amends. I know you will not forgive me, but let me help you this one time." "You'll help him by holding him for me," Callie said. "No," David said to Callie without turning towards him. Frown lines appeared on that perfect, yet sweaty face. "No?" "We're near the Well of All Souls," David said to Christian. "That makes me stronger," Callie hissed. The gem was pulsing all around them.
That's Damon,
Christian realized. "Yes, but he won't get to you in time," Callie said and grinned. "The Well of All Souls is an opening, Christian," David continued. "To the other side, and you, as Speaker to the Dead, are strongest here." Callie and Christian stared at David and then at each other, like two duelists about to draw their weapons.
What weapons do I have? What can I do?
"All you need to do is ask," David said. "Just ask, Christian. Just ask us to help you."
Just ask?
Christian almost laughed.
Speaker to the dead. All the dead. They're...
"Here," David said with a smile and a nod. "We're all here for you. Just ask." "No!" Callie screamed and lunged again. At the same time, Christian said,
Yes, help me.
There was the sound of glass shattering as the gem surrounding them broke apart. And the outside of that gem wasn't black. It was blue-white, the color of the ghosts. Callie screamed as the spirit struck him again and again and again, lifting up into the air and holding him there. The ghosts pinned Callie in place, kept him completely in place. He was going nowhere. David was standing there still between Christian and Callie. "Thank you for letting me help, Christian," David said. Christian just nodded. His gaze was on Callie. He was screaming, but the screams were silent. Behind him, Christian could see not blank blackness, not whiteness, but the star-filled sky of the Everdark. "I know you can't forgive me," David continued.
But you want me to.
Christian murmured.
If I give you what you want, will you leave?
"Do you want me to leave?" David asked. Christian grimaced.
If you are truly sorry.
"I could help you. I could tell you what I know," David cried.
David,
Christian said softly.
I am the speaker to the dead, not just to you.
David swallowed. "But
Release me, David. Go to the Well of All Souls and make your choice whether to be reborn or go on to the other side.
Christian said, but almost gently. David quivered. Christian waited. You just want to get rid of me, David said.
I want to be free,
Christian told him.
Don't you want to be?
I don't know what awaits me, David confessed. After all I've done, how could it be good?
I doubt whatever awaits you is so simple,
Christian told him gently. But it could be, David said. Christian felt a wave of sorrow for David.
It's time, David. You've done your best to make amends. Now you must go see what awaits you.
Christian didn't know if he believed that David would really leave. Even now he thought David might try to avoid fate. But David nodded, surprising him. I am sorry, Christian, for everything, David said. Christian merely nodded. He did not feel the need to give forgiveness.
Goodbye, David.
David turned, looking at something that not even Christian could see, and took a step forward. He then disappeared in a burst of blue-white light. Christian let out a breath he hadn't known he had been holding for so long. His eyes then slid up to Callie, still screaming silently. The whole of the gem was gone. There were trees. He was starting to feel something. Someone slapped his cheeks. It does not work like that, Iros, a patient voice said. He has the facet of Callie quite secure. I'm impressed with him beyond all measure. But he is your fledgling, after all. Balthazar's voice floated over to him. But he's fine, Damon assured him. Christian, all you need to do is ask the spirits to bring you and Callie back.
Just ask? That's all I need to do?
Christian laughed.
This is...
Just ask, Christian, Damon said. Can't you just bring him back? It was Balthazar sounding so desperate. He can do this, Iros. Calm yourself, Damon said. But...
I'm coming,
Christian said. He drew in a deep breath and asked the spirits.
Take us to Damon.
And the spirits obeyed. Join us next time for episode 112, Lord of the Dead.
If you don't think of yourself as that much of a reader, I understand. I don't think of myself as a typical author either. I'm a storyteller, and my only goal is to entertain you with exciting tales of romance and adventure, just like Everdark. I write what I like to read, and that's why you get hot heroes and badass villains, magical powers, fantasy worlds, and, of course, cliffhangers. It's a lot of fun for everyone, and I hope you decide to join in.
The link to sign up is in the notes.
Last on Everdark, Christian engages Callie in conversation, realizing that they were very alike in many ways while he sought a way out of the gem he was in. In the end, Christian releases David, and it is then that the full power of being a speaker to the dead is revealed. Christian simply has to ask the spirits to help him, and they do. Not even Callie can stand before the spirits' wrath. Now, we return to Caemorn. Episode 112, Lord of the Dead. Earlier. Caemorn's right eye twitched. It could have been an involuntary movement, but it wasn't. He was the cause of the twitch, and though small, it was a victory. He had made his own eye twitch when his master hadn't wanted him to. The greatest horror for any Callie vampire was to be at the mercy of another vampire of their kind. For Caemorn, there were few other Callie vampires who could ever match him in strength. Even though he might be younger than many of them, he stood supreme. And it wasn't because of his addiction to study, his obsession with perfecting every spell, or pushing the boundaries of what was known about controlling the dead and fueling his strength with spirits that gave him the edge. Those things had helped him for sure, but he understood the real reason now why none could touch him, why ruling the dead had always come so easily to him. His master was Callie themselves. You are wondering how much difference is there between you and I, aren't you, Caemorn? Callie's sexless voice was threaded through with laughter.
You made me. Your blood flows through my veins. It is not watered down by others.
Camorn said. Ah, but you also have your own blood in those veins, Camorn. Weak blood.
If I was so weak, you wouldn't have chosen me.
Camorn reminded him stiffly. Callie knew his past, knew his story, knew the hardship that had been his life. Despite him claiming the air of an aristocrat, like Balthazar actually had been, he'd come from less than nothing. This was the truth of him. His mother had been an intelligent, if simple peasant who had the misfortune to fall in love with a monk who travelled to her village. He'd been conceived in a moment of passion. Back then, others would have and had called it unholy lust under a full moon. They'd made love, ironically enough, in a graveyard. The fact that Camorn had been born with flaxen hair and delicate, almost preternaturally beautiful features had set him apart, even more than the circumstances of his birth had. He was ostracized, of course. He was like an alien in the village of pug-nosed, hatchet-faced, dirty peasants where the light of intellect, curiosity, or kindness did not shine. And so he turned away from their dark faces and even darker minds to the wider world around him to find his light. He was glad to be on his own. Nature fascinated him. He always wanted to know why things were the way they were. When a beloved cat had died of old age, he'd mourned it, but recognized that whatever had made the cat he loved, was gone. So he'd dissected it, trying to figure out what was missing. Except, of course, he didn't know what should be there in the first place. Killing animals, killing anything really, had never appealed to him. He loved life. He imagined the animals did too. He understood that he required their flesh and skin and bones to survive, but he took no pleasure in it and wished there was another way. When some of the other children reveled in seeing a chicken, cow, or pig dispatched, or would eagerly go hunting, illegally in most cases, for hare or squirrel or even a buck, he had never expressed any interest. But he realized after the cat that he needed to see the process of death. Maybe by watching things die, he would see this missing part leave. And maybe that missing part could be caught and put back in place or put in another of its kind. Of course, when the small-minded townsfolk had discovered his interest, they had been appalled and called him unnatural. The irony of it all was that they were the ones that caused the deaths. He just watched. And he was watching to stop the process. When he'd explained that to them, though, they'd been angrier and almost afraid of him. The first child that had reached down for a stone had caught his mother's eye. She'd grabbed Camorn by the shoulders and harshly whispered in his ear,
Go, run, find your father.
Then she'd shoved him behind her, blocking him from the first volley of stones as he'd run. He had only been 10 years old, and a fool in his own estimation. A coward, too. He'd run and left her there when he heard the thunk of stone against flesh and her screams. He did not know what had happened to her. Had they stoned her to death? Had they stopped throwing stones when they'd realized he'd gotten away? He could have tried to draw her spirit to him and find out. She might be one that remained glued to the earth like so many who died violent or early deaths. But he had not. He'd told himself for years it was because it didn't matter. She'd been a fool to have not run away with him, even though that wouldn't have given him the real, full chance to get away. He told himself that his only family was Artemis Eleusius, and maybe he had felt guilt, because when Artemis tortured him, destroyed him with words or looks or spirits, he'd accepted it, and never fought back, just like he'd never looked back when his mother had screamed. His mother had told him the name of the priory where his father had at least called home when he'd strayed with his mother. It was nearly a month's walk away, but Camorn had done it. He'd arrived there at the priory's gates, more skeleton than boy. He'd eaten only what he could steal or had begged, and that hadn't been much. And he hadn't stopped but to sleep a few hours and run on. He still felt pursuers on his heels, Or maybe he thought he needed to honor the gift of her life that his mother had given him by making it to the priory without delay. Whatever it had been, he had made it, half dead, starving in tattered clothing and on trembling limbs. If either his mother or he had any sense, sending him to the priory would have been the last place either of them would have sent him. After all, with his distinctive looks he shared with his father according to his mother, showing up there would show that his father had broken his vow of celibacy, among other things. But a monk in long robes with a rope tied around his waist had come to the wrought iron gates and stared down at him in silence. The monk's face was hidden in shadow. He wore gloves that covered his hands. All of him was hidden from the winter sun's weak rays. Caemorn hadn't had the strength to speak for himself. His teeth chattered with cold and want. He looked up at the monk's hooded face and waited for what he wasn't quite sure. Recognition? Pity? Disgust? Probably the latter, if nothing else, as that had been what he'd always gotten. The monk silently opened the door and gestured for him to enter. Caemorn hobbled past the gate and onto the crushed stone path. His right ankle had twisted on his trek. The monk said nothing as he took Caemorn up to the stone structure that looked like a cross between a castle and a prison. He was ushered inside of this intimidating building, still without a word. It was still cold inside, but warmer than the wintry outside. The darkness was pushed back only by firelight and candlelight, but it appeared as if that golden glow was in a losing fight with the almost physical blackness within the priory. Caemorn didn't know where he expected the monk to take him. Perhaps to his father. He imagined the monk presenting him to the man who had made him with a sneering statement. "He's yours. You are both damned." But that didn't happen. The monk led him to a set of stairs going down. A cold, wet wind blew up towards them. Caemorn made the first sound he had since the monk had found him at the gate and retreated from the moaning breeze. The monk put his hands on his shoulders and gently pushed him forward. Caemorn tried to dig his heels into the stone floor, but his shoes were rotted scraps and he could gain no purchase. The monk pushed again, and Caemorn took that first step, then another, then another. He had no choice but to go forward. The monk was not going to allow him to stay up above, and he had nowhere else to go. There were torches that lined the walls of the steps. The whole of the priory felt odd to Caemorn, as if it had stood for hundreds of years. But these steps felt older, as if the priory had been built on top of them. He would later find out that it had been done just like that. For what was below the priory was precious and sacred and rare. A gate to lasting. The stairs curved like a snake slithering into the earth and leaving a trail for prey to foolishly follow. The torches crackled and flickered as the constant breeze rattled them. Caemorn imagined that the fire was trying to flee this place, but was chained to the wood, and the wood was chained to the wall by iron. It seemed that they descended for hours, but later he would know that could not be the case. It was a long descent, but could be done in minutes. Yet time during that first descent stretched and flowed like honey. Finally, they reached the bottom. It was a room made of bones. Caemorn's eyes widened, and adrenaline spiked in his veins. He gasped and backed up into the figure of the monk. "Are you afraid, Caemorn?" the monk asked. His voice was cool and light and refined. Caemorn had not realized at that time that the monk had used his name, despite him not having given it yet. And the phrase, "Are you afraid?" would be one he would hear countless times in his existence. It took Caemorn a moment to realize that there were shelves built into the walls upon which the bones were stacked. Some of the insets were diamond-shaped and filled with long thigh bones. Others were pyramids of skulls, yet others were squares of ribs and spines and feet.
The bones.
Caemorn swallowed. His voice sounded rusty and unused, crude in comparison to the monk's. "What about them?"
How many dead people are down here?
"Millennia of the dead. Some were here before the priory, well before Jesus was even an idea. The monk answered, It is a place for the dead, and even those who think they know the truth of the universe now, as they have never done so before, acknowledge it as such. The air smelled of damp stone and bone. Torchlight did not enter the skull's eye sockets, yet to Caemorn it appeared the skulls followed him as the monk continued to push and steer him towards a particular shelf, where bones were laid one on top of the other, with the skull resting atop the lot. There were candles on either side of the remnants of a person. The monk stopped them directly in front of it. His hands lightly squeezed Caemorn's shoulders. Caemorn looked over his shoulder at the hooded figure.
Who?
Your father, the monk answered. He died. Caemorn froze, then slowly turned to look back at the bones. His eyes studied them. They weren't different from any of the other bones here. Sure, they were perhaps of a different width or length or volume, but they were the same at the most basic level. Just like with the cat. Whatever had made his father the man he was now gone, and only this base matter remained.
My father is not here.
Caemorn finally said to the monk.
Where did he go?
He thought the monk might misunderstand, or might be horrified by his question like all the villagers had been. But the monk did neither. Instead, he smiled and nodded. Would you like to know? The monk asked.
I would. I do.
Caemorn was adamant, pulling his shoulders back and straightening his spine. Then you are in the right place, the monk assured him.
If you want to support this podcast, we actually have something better than a Patreon. I have my own serial subscription website, wraithrain.com. It's an old-fashioned paywall site, just like Netflix or Crunchyroll. With a membership, you do get uncut versions with no intros, outros, or edited parts. Just the chapters as they were meant to be heard. If all you want is the audio chapters, then we can just stop there. But if you want to know what else you get as a Wraith Rain member, I'll tell you more after the chapter concludes.
His hands left Caemorn's shoulders, and he pushed back his hood to reveal a face that was so lovely, Caemorn might have gasped again. He reached up involuntarily to touch the alabaster skin, as if to check it was flesh and not marble. The monk allowed the touch. His skin was cool and silky. It was unmarred by the dirt or scars or the hard times that life often imprinted on the faces of that age. He had silver eyes like liquid mercury.
Who are you?
Caemorn asked. My name is Artemus Elusius, Caemorn, the monk said with a faint smile. Caemorn blinked, realizing this time that the monk had used his name.
How do you know my name? Did my father tell you?
But how could he tell me, Caemorn? He was not there when you were born. How could he know your name? Artemis asked. Caemorn's brow furrowed.
You're right, unless mother told him. But no, he didn't know about me.
He tilted his head to the side.
So how do you know?
Caemorn was certain that Artemis had never been to his crappy little village. He was too beautiful to have gone unnoticed. A faint smile lifted those plush lips, revealing sharp, white teeth. That is another good question, Caemorn. And you will learn the answer to it as well by staying with me. Do you want to stay with me?
I have nowhere else to go.
Caemorn almost said that, but instead realizing even then that he shouldn't be honest with this beautiful creature. Not man, or woman, or human, or monk, but creature. He said,
Yes, I do.
Another smile. Good.
You waited for me. You chose me.
Caemorn said to the ghosts that Callie controlled now.
That's how you knew my name when I first came to you.
Is that what you think? Callie chuckled.
Yes, you knew my name. My father must have known of me. Perhaps after he passed, he went back to my mother and saw me. Then you learned it from him and...
No. Callie's voice was like a scythe cutting through Caemorn's desperate words.
Then who?
Your mother, Callie interrupted. Her spirit came to the priory. Caemorn swallowed. Callie was saying that his mother had come to the priory before Caemorn had arrived there so long ago. That meant his mother had died before Caemorn had arrived.
She was stoned to death. For me.
Caemorn realized, and startlingly, tears pricked his eyes. But he said to Callie,
Really?
Yes, she was so desperate to make sure that her little boy was safe that she flew right to the priory, right to me, Callie answered.
And she told you of me?
Caemorn's voice was flat. Of course. She wanted you to be taken care of. She was so desperate. Caemorn swallowed, or tried to. It seemed that even that function Callie controlled. He might drown in his own saliva. What a way to go.
What did you do to her?
Caemorn asked, even as he knew it was a bad idea, but what did it matter any longer? There were no more games to play with Callie. Unless Damon swept in and saved the day, this was going to go very badly for him and everyone else. I'm so glad you asked, Callie said. I used her to fuel the shield I used to go outside that day we met.
You were covered.
But there was a chance the wind could have swept back my hood. I couldn't chance that. Besides, she was grateful to be there when we met, Callie told him.
You used her whole life force, just in case.
Caemorn's voice was chill. Now, Caemorn, you've done less with more. Don't act so superior to me. Callie laughed sharply.
You're quite right. I have 2 enemies, not 2...
He stopped. What was he to Callie really? A friend? No. A lover? Hardly. His fledgling? Of course. But what did that mean to Callie? Nothing. Less than nothing.
And you wonder why I chose Damon over you?
The ghosts, all with Callie's mind in their eyes, glittered at him. There was an evil, angry intensity in them. He had hurt his master for once. The ghosts swooped towards his paralyzed form. The chill of them was almost unbearable. Though he had schooled himself to avoid showing any physical reactions to discomfort or pain, he was almost grateful for Callie's control of his body because even him, with the ghosts sucking out a trail of energy from him, would have caused him to flinch.
I chose Damon. I choose Damon!
Caemorn screamed as the ghosts ripped at the ties that bound him to his immortal flesh. You will regret.
No, I won't.
While he could not move, he still had some control over his own powers. The soul gems he had filled earlier were at his fingertips now, and he siphoned energy from them to keep his own strength up. He had seen a vampire stripped of all energy by ghosts before. He'd done it to many vampires himself. But the souls he had trapped would not last forever. Yet if he kept his master focused on him, there would be hope for the others. Callie's mind battered against his. Damon will never love you. He'll never care for you. You killed his fledgling's parents. You think to make yourself a teacher to Christian, friend to Iros. How pathetic and delusional can you be, Caemorn? You are worthless, and...
Maybe Damon will not love me. Maybe Julian will hate me. Maybe I will never teach Christian or claim Balthazar's friendship. But I still choose Damon over you.
Caemorn roared.
No matter what you do, I choose him.
There was an inarticulate roar of rage from the ghosts. They were a tornado of hostile energy. Callie sent them towards him like avenging angels. Their cool countenances seemed to peel back to reveal the death's heads they truly were. He felt one soul gem drain, then another, then another. He was so cold he felt that even if he could move, he thought he might shatter into a million tiny pieces. But then he was looking into Fiona's eyes, and not the pitiless blue-white glow of a ghost's. She and Callie were speaking, but he couldn't seem to hear them. His ears and mind were filled with Callie's screams of rage. Soul gem after soul gem failed as he protected himself and Fiona from the main brunt of them. He saw two figures in the mass of the ghosts, Artemis and someone else. A woman, but they were both Callie. All were Callie. Everything was Callie. He was down to the last soul gem. His eyes met Artemis's, and he saw that familiar smile that he had always wished to be turned upon him. A fond smile, a loving smile, a knowing, intimate smile. But it was a smile reserved only for times where there would be unspeakable pain. Yet he wasn't there to suffer it. Fiona had teleported them away from Callie, not too far away, but out of the view of the ghosts and the two bodies Callie inhabited. Caemorn, though, could still not speak. He realized he was lying beside Balthazar and Christian. He could see that their souls were not in their bodies. Callie had them. If Fiona teleported them away from here, the thin line connecting the two would snap and... But Fiona disappeared and left them there. At that moment, Caemorn wanted to curse her. He wanted to scream that she was a coward to leave them. But his mouth didn't move. His right eye twitched. You think you can hide from me, Caemorn? Do you think I can't find you wherever you are? Callie asked, but the sexless voice was strained. Yes, strained, thin and pale and worn through as if Callie was the one hanging on by a thread. Caemorn concentrated on that voice. He had an idea. He closed his eyes. Somehow he did it, and he concentrated on the voice. He envisioned it as a point of light, a silver point of light, and he held on to it and traced it back. It came from Artemis, but there was another silver light, a familiar soul in another body just a few feet away.
Ah, yes, I see it now. I see your soul, Callie.
Caemorn thought with pleasure. He kept concentrating. There had to be connections between all of the bodies Callie inhabited. They needed to keep themselves all together. He saw those lines running out in all directions, small pinpoints of light in the darkness. Caemorn. Damon's voice suddenly rose up. Caemorn's eyelids opened. Above him crouched the Vampire King. He was smiling, and Caemorn desperately wanted to smile back, which was ridiculous, but he did. But he couldn't. He really wanted to tell him that he could recognize his master's soul. He would be able to recognize Callie anywhere. He could even trace him. What's wrong with him? Balthazar asked.
Does Callie have his soul too?
Christian asked. No, this is simpler than that, Damon said, and his eyes never left Caemorn's face. I heard what you said to Callie, Caemorn, that you chose me. Balthazar's lips opened as if to discount that, but he closed them as if he thought better of it. And if Caemorn hadn't known better, Balthazar almost looked ashamed of something. Caemorn tried to answer, but he couldn't move his lips. I can hear your thoughts, Caemorn, Damon said with a gentle smile.
I know how to track Callie and...
Caemorn, I know, but this is important. Damon responded almost lightly. Now, do you choose me? Caemorn wanted to squirm. It was the height of weakness to show desire for anything. He swallowed. He could swallow now, thank the gods.
Yes, but what's more important is...
Nothing is more important than that, Caemorn. Damon told him. You are free.
Free? What?
Caemorn spoke the words out loud. He could speak. He could sit up. He could stand up. He was doing all of these things.
You broke Callie's control over me. I did not think that...
You broke Callie's control over you, Caemorn. Damon answered softly. You chose me.
You're my king.
Caemorn answered, still not quite understanding how he was free of Callie.
Does this make you... You, my master.
Damon laughed, but kindly. You are master of yourself. I am master to all. His red eyes narrowed. Now it is my turn to remind Callie of that fact. Join us next time for episode 113, Power.
What else do you get as a member of WraithRain.com? I write a lot of stories. Since 2010, I've written long gay romance web novels with hot heroes falling in love with each other, whether it's honorable elven warriors, fierce dragon shifters, sensual mermen, fallen angels and demons, and reincarnated immortal vampires. When you join, you can read all of these on my serial membership site. The completed stories are there in full for you to read as fast as you want. And the ongoing stories get 3 chapters every week, so I can torture you with cliffhangers. Entertain you. But don't worry, you can tell me exactly what you think of that in the comments at the end of every chapter. There's also manga. My first foray into romance was actually yaoi manga. And since the very beginning, I've collaborated with artists to create both Western and Asian graphic novels that are posted 1 page at a time in the members-only area. Even if you're not a manga person per se, when you're a member, you get them free. So why not check out the amazing detailed work of our artists while waiting for me to post the next chapter? If this sounds interesting to you, try us out for a month. The link to sign up is in the notes. The most you'll pay is $9.95 a month, and you'll be directly supporting us, real people, not big corporations like Amazon or Netflix, not content created with AI. Wraith Rain is a small team of actual humans doing the best we can to transport you with romantic action and adventure stories. We really thank you for your support.
Last on Everdark. Kaemorn is being tortured by Callie, but he refuses to break. Instead, he shouts to the rooftops that he chooses Damon, no matter what Callie does. And it is at this moment that Kaemorn is freed, master of himself, while Damon is master of all. Episode 113, Power. Damon strode to the Well of All Souls, hands stretched slightly wide, fingers parted as if he were about to grab the air itself and command it. 2 of Callie's forms were frozen there, though they were not visible at the moment. The ghosts were like waves on a stormy sea around them, swamping them in swells of cold mist, then withdrawing and leaving them exposed like rocks on the shore, naked, wet, and shivering. The form called Artemis Elusius, the one that had sired Kaemorn, looked at him for one moment. There were so many emotions in those silver eyes, from joy to grief, from love to hate, from arrogance to terror. The female form, called Moira, stared straight ahead, her jaw muscles clenched and her throat working convulsively. It was like seeing 2 parts of Callie's mind at once. Their thoughts were unsurprising. "You think that you have stopped me?" Callie asked. "Surely the incident in the museum has taught you that I am not your only foe." "You mean the children that you have poisoned?" Damon shook his head wearily. "I mean those who know your power and understand that you must be stopped now." "You know you cannot stop me, nor can they," Damon interrupted, still weary. "You know I am inevitable. But what you bring to your rule, what lessons you've learned are not," Callie said. And Artemis's chin quivered up a millimeter, but no more. Balthazar had him completely in his power. "You think you are the one to teach me?" Damon shook his head again. "I established order in the vampires. I ensured that the immortals did not rise again to make cannon fodder of them and destroy our food source and our progeny. You think that nothing?" Arrogance brimmed in those words and in Artemis's eyes. Moira's were filled with desperation to find a way out of this. Everything you've accomplished, Cully, has been built upon lies and death, Damon told them sadly. This is why it will all fall, and you will not be seen as the hero, but the villain. A blankness wiped both Artemis and Moira's faces clean at his words. He had struck at the heart of them. People like Fiona, who were believers, knew the truth once they heard and saw it. Your lies peeled her away from the order, and her faith was damaged irrevocably, Damon told them. And others will follow the same path she did to understanding. They already are. Not all, Callie insisted. Not all, Damon admitted. And those are a problem. Damon thought of Kara, the Callie vampire who had killed so many for no reason. He reached into the inner pocket of his jacket and pulled out the soul stone that contained her. Artemis saw it and knew she was in there, but there was no pity in those silver eyes, no regret, no loss, no guilt. Of course there wasn't. There would never be. That was not who Callie was. And that meant that they would go through no end of people like Kara to teach him lessons. Do you think I should mourn her? Callie asked. She gave her life and her soul in service to an idea she fully believes in. She is a hero. Or would you call her a villain too? I would call her delusional. She was betrayed by you, Damon explained, as he rubbed his right thumb over the gem's smooth, warm surface. He caught sight of a silvery light inside of the gem. Kara's soul. She thought you offered her truth and a greater purpose, but she never knew the truth, and her only purpose was to serve your ego. People don't care about the truth, not really. They feel things and want to believe in those feelings, Callie answered. I gave her what she needed. Yes, Damon thought sadly. You did. And now you must be made to give her another feeling. You think you can convince me I'm wrong? Come now, Damon. Surely you realize that by leaving the world to mourn a fledgling that was to be yours in time, that you betrayed us all, Callie pointed out. Damon nodded, and he felt Callie's shock. I did not realize what role I played among you. How could you think that, with our petty squabbles and our attempts to one-up one another? Callie scoffed. How did you ignore such things? Damon's mind went back to the many times he had intervened, played the mediator, and sometimes the first among equals to end bickering that had turned too bitter. I was overcome by my own grief, Damon stated. I was not perfect. I am not perfect now. But you are king. Callie's voice was mocking. You are inevitable. Such a being can never be wrong, for the cost to all of us is too high. Damon considered this. Things had not gone well in his absence. Sieur had warned him of that, but he had not cared at the time. He couldn't see beyond his own pain. I am chastened by what has happened. But you will still rule everyone, won't you? Callie said, and Damon imagined them shaking their heads sadly. Yes, it is my nature, Damon also admitted. And I will make more mistakes, Callie, and I will learn from those too. So you see then, I am doing this for you, Damon, for your good, for the good of the world, Callie stated. I know you think that, Damon answered sadly. Or you've convinced yourself of it, in any case. It is the truth. Maybe when you started all of this, but not now. Now you are simply seeking to keep the sand underneath your kingdom from being washed away. Damon told him. Callie did not respond to this. The others are going to return. Many already have. Damon told Callie. Our existence is going to be revealed to the world. I cannot have you or those poisoned children terrorizing everyone. What will you do to me? Keep me in a soul gem too? Callie asked. Or make us all mortals again? Or, no. As I said, I need your assistance, Damon answered, and he released the hold that Eiros had over the form Artemis. Hey, Damon, what are you doing? It was Balthazar crying out as he jogged towards Damon from the trees. His mind told Damon that he was not going to let the Vampire King face Callie alone. Damon smiled. Balthazar's bravery, as well as his desire for revenge, was greater than his sense at this point. But it did not matter. He had not ordered them to remain behind. The others came after Balthazar. Fiona's forehead furrowed. Christian was frowning. Camorn was preparing for battle. Artemis stretched and cracked his neck from side to side. He was not attempting to flee. Not yet. Of course, he wouldn't be allowed to leave. What's the plan? Balthazar asked. There was an eager light in his eyes. To trap Callie in the place in between. To torture him as he had tortured Balthazar. Damon reached over and cupped Balthazar's cheek. I am sorry I was not here to stop that. Balthazar's eyes grew dark, but then he shook himself. No, I'm glad you weren't. I needed to know my own power and to realize... Did you know? About Roan? Damon slowly nodded. It was the only explanation for why Christian was a speaker to the dead. I think you might find that you have more gifts from... I don't want them! Balthazar flared, then looked down guiltily. I'm happy with my own gifts. Yes, of course, Damon said. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have shouted at you. Balthazar said, looking apologetic. It's just... Damon patted his cheek. I understand. No apology needed. Christian had been watching this interaction. His frown had deepened. He was worried about Balthazar's state of mind, and he did not quite understand what Roan and Callie had in common. Not quite yet. Camorn's gaze was fixed on Callie, but Damon knew that he had heard their words and was already working towards the inevitable conclusion that both he and Balthazar were blood brothers, but from different forms, if not the same immortal. Why have you released me? Artemis said. To have some big showdown? At least give me Moira and make the odds a little more even.
You said the Well of Souls was your place.
Camorn stated.
Do you need additional help?
Artemis's eyes narrowed. Then he laughed. By the gods, Camorn, look at you. A proud dog at his new master's heels.
Better than a beaten dog,
Camorn remarked simply. Camorn's lack of hurt from his words had Artemis stymied for a moment, but he shook himself and gave an evil smile. You killed Julian's parents. You can never undo that, Artemis said. You can never truly join Damon's family. Camorn's eyes slid to Damon. There was that promise again. If he had the soul gems, he could bring them back. Damon knew he meant it.
Whatever the cost.
Where are you keeping the soul gems containing the harrows?
Fiona asked. As if I would tell you. Artemis scoffed and tossed back his angelic blonde head.
You should use it as a bargaining chip.
Fiona answered just as coolly, her arms crossing over her body.
You're not getting out of here.
Why have you released me then? Artemis repeated to Damon. To demonstrate that I can learn. That I have learned. Damon slipped Kara's soul gem into his pocket. We'll see, Artemis said, before he struck. The ghosts that had been flowing around them like water suddenly surged towards them. A tidal wave of spirits, all with one thought. Drain them. He heard Camorn muttering behind him. Let me get a lock on his mind, Balthazar hissed. No, not yet. Damon said quietly. What? Why? Balthazar's lips writhed back from his teeth, wanting to fight. We have to do something about those ghosts. They are not kind.
I'm doing something about them,
Camorn responded.
Everdark is the first story completed at 147 chapters. Everdark Academy, where Camorn is a main character, is also completed at 169 chapters. If you want to catch up and go on to Everdark Equinox, the third installment, you can join the membership and hopefully the comment section at the end of the latest chapter.
Caemorn suddenly was tossing great amounts of soul stones into the air all around them, forming a protective circle. When the line of ghosts touched them, they were pulled into the stones. Everyone crowded into the very center of the circle, as a circle of ghosts 30 feet high surrounded them on all sides. "How many more do you have of those?" Balthazar asked, as he noted some of them glowing as they filled to the brim with spirits, unable to contain any more.
A few,
Caemorn said, as he broke open another of his secret pockets and reinforced areas of the circle where there were too many glowing stones. He spun like a whirling dervish as he did so.
I don't think you have enough for all of them,
Christian said from his spot beside Caemorn.
No, but I'll think of something else.
Caemorn answered through gritted teeth. Caemorn then scattered his last stones, and he rose up. His silver eyes were blazing. He thrust his hands up and out. There was a wave of power that came from him, and the ghosts were pushed back several feet in all directions. Some flew back to the well, others headed off into the endless Everdark woods, and yet others attacked their counterparts. He was picking off dozens from Callie's control, but there were thousands, tens of thousands. "Very good, Caemorn," Artemis laughed, "but not good enough." The souls suddenly slammed back around them once more. Caemorn had his hands outstretched to his sides. Sweat clotted his brow and trailed down his cheeks, only to drip from his jaw. His lips writhed back from his teeth as he used the energy of the trapped spirits to hold the rest back. He was draining the gems, which were only filling up again with more spirits, but he couldn't keep this up forever. The Vampire King put a hand on his heaving shoulder. "That was excellent, Caemorn," Damon said gently. "It shows your skill and power. A vampire of twice your years should not be able to do this, even having Kali's blood. I know. I've met many." "Why aren't you helping him, Damon?" Artemis asked from beyond the wall of spirits. "Why aren't you fighting back?" Yes," Balthazar asked with a lifted eyebrow. "Why are you holding back?"
I can help. All I need to do is speak to the spirits.
Christian began. "No, Christian. Let it be," Damon instructed. The ring of stones Caemorn had sewn about them was still working, as was Caemorn's force field of ghosts. But it would fail soon if something wasn't done.
"Let me get everyone out of here, Damon,"
Fiona begged, her hands balled into fists. "That is a good idea, but it would only change this battle to a different time, Wyvern," Damon explained.
"Yes, I know, but Caemorn can't defeat Callie. Not now. Not yet.
She pointed out.
And you're still weak. And you're still weak. But for you, I mean."
"You are right, but it does not matter," Damon told her, which had more frowns appearing on people's lips.
He wants to show us what he's learned.
Christian said suddenly. He had been studying Damon long and hard.
He's not afraid. We shouldn't be.
"You didn't see all the dead at the museum," Artemis cooed. "Shall I take their souls too, Damon?" Damon's anger bristled before he shoved it down. "You can try."
I can't protect.
Caemorn looked grey.
I can't protect them and hold off the spirits.
"You don't have to." Damon then squeezed Caemorn's shoulder, just as the Callie vampire's strength was fading fast. "Let go."
What?
Caemorn clearly thought he was insane.
It's okay, Caemorn.
Christian said, as he seemed to realize that Damon truly had a plan.
You can do it. Let go.
With a heaving cry, Caemorn did and collapsed to the ground, but the spirits did not overwhelm them. Damon held them at bay. If he were to fight Callie toe-to-toe on this, he would eventually win, but at what cost? But there was no need to fight with spirits.
You're holding them back effortlessly.
Caemorn breathed. He had been helped to his feet by Balthazar. Caemorn had said,
"Thank you,"
under his breath. This had caused Balthazar to stare at him, and then quickly turn away, muttering, "You're welcome. Blood brothers, This will be interesting. Not effortlessly, Damon admitted. I am still not at full power. Not by a long shot. But this is all a conceit. Artemis has grabbed Moira and... He's headed into the damned forest. He thinks he can get away. I can stop them, Damon. Balthazar's eyes were glowing hotly. Why won't you let me? Because there's no need. Damon answered calmly. Balthazar's eyebrows were both up. You're hiding what you're planning, Damon. Not fair, because things look pretty damn dire. My hands are frosting over again. Balthazar showed the fine ice crystals that were forming over his skin as the ghost sucked all the warmth from them. This only seems insurmountable, because we think we can control all the ghosts. No one can fully beat Callie at their own game without great cost, Damon explained to his friends. We must think differently.
But if Callie is getting away,
Christian said with a shrug. They are not. Trust me on this, Damon said. We must remember that to defeat an enemy, do not use their methods of fighting. Use your own. Yes, like me crushing his little brain, Balthazar suggested. Exactly, but not quite yet, Damon said. I will have you use your power shortly. Damon closed his eyes and sought communion with the Everdark. The earth that seemed so barren in some eyes, bearing only the evil trees and poisonous foliage, was rich with life for him. Creatures, near and far, lifted their heads, their eyes going red, as were his eyes. They listened. The trees and plants turned their leaves towards him. They listened. The insects, squirming in the ground, paused in their ceaseless digging. They listened. The air and the earth seemed to hold attention as if listening too. Ah, Damon, dear fellow, the circle is failing. Are you going to do something? Balthazar's voice was light with an almost funereal amusement. Yes, now, he said. And the earth and air in the well answered his request. There was a grinding, crashing sound as the stone making up the brick moved inwards until there was but a dime-shaped opening left. The ghosts, fearing they would be cut off for all time from the renewal, broke free of Callie's control and fled into the well. He waited until every last one of them had left, leaving the area around the well free of souls for the first time in a long time. There was a terrible grinding sound. The light from the last ghost winked out. The last space was closed. And now there was only a heap of stones where the well of all souls had once been. The Everdark was silent for long moments, but then the chirr of night insects returned. The soft of unseen birds in the trees came back. The rumbly growls of predators snuffling through the underbrush filled the air. These were still soft sounds, but they were sounds that had not been heard near the Well of All Souls in an age. Damon smiled and opened his eyes. Caemorn was open-mouthed, but there was dismay written large on his face. He had, after all, lost a place where he could come and easily fill his soul gems. Damon used the power of Asher to lift up the soul gems and send them flowing into Caemorn's pockets. Do not be so sad. You have these, Damon said. Besides, it should be hard to collect souls. It should not be like shooting fish in a barrel, Caemorn. Still, Caemorn's lower lip nearly trembled.
Yes, but I was investigating how it worked. Now I will never know.
You won't? Damon lifted an eyebrow.
and don't the souls need this place?
Christian asked, scanning the woods for souls, but the spirits were no longer being funneled here. They do? Damon lifted that eyebrow higher. Both Caemorn and Christian looked at him in bewilderment.
Don't they?
That was asked in unison. Damon smiled. Does it make any sense that something clearly... He gestured to the stone well. Constructed by someone would be needed to help in the process of life and death?
No,
It was Fiona who answered.
Not at all, in fact.
She bit her lower lip as her gaze grew distant.
This is completely artificial. I can feel, yes, I can feel, but how is that possible?
You're keeping us in suspense. What do you feel? Balthazar asked her, windmilling his arms.
When I teleport, I've always felt that I was opening a gateway, sort of like the gates to the Everdark, and
She stopped as she looked at Damon. Her eyes widened.
I made gates.
He nodded. Damon smiled. She spun back towards the well.
Oh my, I helped make this. I did this for Callie.
Speaking of them, shouldn't we be going after... Oh,
Christian's words were cut off as a creature seemingly made of vines and blood came slithering towards them, and in its mass were Artemis and Callie, completely caught. Damon stepped over to the two of them. The others followed. Artemis's silver eyes were filled with only hate and fear now. Moira looked resigned. Callie knew that this was the end of the road for these two forms. Or so they thought. So, no ghosts to use against us anymore? Balthazar said, and kicked Artemis's shin. You're useless without them?
Balthazar?
Fiona chided. What?
He's incapacitated. We should not behave that way towards one who cannot defend himself.
She said mildly. You don't know all that Callie has done, Balthazar growled, but he didn't kick Artemis again.
that trick with the well wasn't your only lesson learned, was it?
Christian asked. Damon shook his head as he got down on his haunches and stared down at Callie. Hunting Callie down will not be the hard part.
I can locate the bodies they are using. I was saying that before.
Camon said. Yes, and we will have you do that. But it is those that they have convinced of the rightness of their cause that are the problem, Damon said as he thought of Kara. We must change their minds. He turned his head slightly towards Balthazar, who was frowning. You mean change their minds, right? Balthazar finally asked. Like me changing? Yes. It must be done in such a way that their minds accept it and do not break. Damon said, somewhat like you did to those Kali vampires before. But these are zealots. Zealots are really hard to convince. Balthazar rubbed his chin, though, and looked more like he was challenged rather than determined it wouldn't work. They are. Damon stood up and gestured to Callie and Moira. That's why you're going to practice on Callie first. Change their mind, and I don't think you can fail with anyone else. Join us next time for episode 114. Come out and play.
One of the things I love about having my own subscription site is the conversation between me and my members. This lets me know immediately what you think about the stories that I'm currently writing. For many authors, getting feedback on every single chapter would be stressful. But for me, it's not just fun, but it's my fuel. I got into writing to entertain other people, so your reactions are the wind beneath my wings. If you become one of my members, consider leaving a little comment on the latest chapter. I often respond.